We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugig and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this morning? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillors Carter and Shell.
Sorry, that the August 28th, 2024 Haliburton County Council agenda be approved as amended.
All in favor? That's carried. We have no presentations or delegations. Is everyone good with the consent agenda as presented? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the consent agenda? Councillors McKechnie and Rael.
That the items listed under the heading of consent agenda for August 28th, 2024 be adopted as recommended.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay, next under the agenda is under the office of the CAO, the report on the proposed approach for the strategic plan. So over to you, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Warden Danielson. Just quickly, while Ms. Purcell and Ms. Tiffin are getting ready to set up. So based on our meeting in June, where council directed staff to entertain the development of the strategic planning process internally, we have since set up a working group of staff, and we developed a program for the plan itself it is council's plan going forward as part of as well as the community's plan. We're going to outline for you today the program we believe we're going to set forward for the development of the plan, where council's actual touch points are in, and then the type of information we'll be gathering and the estimated timeline going forward. We're looking for council's ratification of the program, and we'll report on an ongoing basis as we go forward, and make any adjustments as needed going forward based on council's conversations and also the conversations we had with the community groups as outlined in the program.
Over to you, ladies.
Thank you, Warden Danielson. As CAO previously mentioned, on behalf of the county's strategic planning working group, Sue and I are here to present the proposed approach, principles, and schedule of the strategic plan project as developed by the working group for council's consideration. As a refresher for council and for the benefit of anyone from the public tuning in, a strategic plan serves as a central guide to staff and council and informs the public of the direction of the organization. The lifespan of a plan is typically 3 to 5 years, and it consists of objectives, strategic actions, and desired outcomes that will help guide the county and set out its vision for that term. Accordingly, the new Haliburton strategic plan will consist of overarching priorities, corresponding actionable items, and measurable indicators of success, and will be both an internal focused and an external focused document. The creation of a strategic plan for the county has been contemplated since late 2022, but was deferred to 2024 when staffing changes at the senior management level had occurred. As council will recall, at the June 12th county council meeting, council directed staff to develop the county's first strategic plan utilizing internal staff resources. From that, a strategic plan working group was established to undertake the project. The following are the members of the strategic plan working group: Sue and myself, Angelica Ingram, Manny Cantha Lela, Kate Lovett, Alex McMaster, Joanne O'Keefe, Chris Parrish, and Pam Weiss. Today's presentation will serve to outline the plan's program as developed by the strategic plan working group. The project charter for this project is attached as Appendix C to the staff report for your convenience. You may be wondering, what is a project charter? It's a document that delineates the project's purpose, scope, objectives, and stakeholders, and includes a comprehensive work plan. It offers clarity and direction for anyone involved in the project, ensuring everyone is on the same page. Project charters are new for the county, but will be developed and implemented in all future county projects as part of a new project management program rollout heading into 2025. In the project charter, we've established that the purpose of the project is to develop a comprehensive strategic plan for the County of Haliburton to guide its governance, development, and service delivery for the next 5 years. And that this strategic plan will establish the county's vision, mission, goals, and objectives, and outline the strategies and actions necessary to achieve them. The objectives of the project that we are striving to achieve are to assess the current state of the county, engage with stakeholders to gather input and feedback, develop a clear and actionable vision and mission for the county, establish specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals and objectives, create a detailed action plan, and develop performance metrics and a monitoring framework. To keep everyone on track, the charter delineates what is in scope of the project and what is out of scope of the project. Specifically, activities in the project scope include conducting a comprehensive SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. Stakeholder engagement through surveys, focus groups, and public meetings. Developing vision, mission, goals, and objective statements for the county. Creating a detailed action plan and implementation roadmap, establishing performance metrics and monitoring mechanisms, and regular progress reports and updates to County Council. Activities out of scope of the project include the actual implementation of the strategic plan that is to be handled by respective county departments and the development of detailed department work plans. We have also identified key stakeholders in the project. These include county council, county residents, county businesses, county employees, community organizations, local municipalities, and service providers. The identified deliverables throughout the project include a SWOT analysis report, which is a detailed report on, as I mentioned, on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges facing the county. A stakeholder engagement report being a summary of the input and feedback collected from various stakeholders through the consultation portion of the project. A strategic plan document being a comprehensive document outlining the county's vision, mission, goals, objectives, and action plan. And a performance metrics and monitoring framework document, which is a set of metrics and a framework for tracking progress and ensuring accountability to be utilized during the life of the plan.
For the next few slides, where we will discuss the proposed work plan, it would be beneficial for council and those following along at home to pull up Appendix B of the staff report for the Gantt chart prepared for the project, which contains the full list of tasks and associated timeframes, while we will highlight some of the more core tasks in this presentation. There are 3 main phases included in the proposed process. The first phase is the project initiation. During this phase, the kickoff of the working group has occurred, the development of the communications and engagement plan is almost complete, and the council orientation presentation is what we are presenting here today. As such, based on the timeframe and task completion, we are completing phase 1 this week and heading into the latter part of phase 2. Phase 2 is considered the research and consultation phase, and as just mentioned, phase 2 has somewhat run concurrently with phase 1. This phase is the most critical for creating a great strategic plan, as it creates the foundation for the plan through the compilation of data and perspectives that will provide council with the context required to identify preliminary priority areas. The working group is currently undertaking the environmental scan of all relevant information that could impact the county and its operations in the coming years, and working through the logistics of the consultation piece that is scheduled to occur in early fall. The last major activity is the creation and presentation of the SWOT summary report, which essentially will capture all of the work that will have been completed by the working group up to that time. The third and final phase is the plan development phase. In this phase, the development of the strategic plan document will occur, including consultation on the draft document with council and the community, making adjustments as necessary to achieve a final strategic plan for council endorsement, and developing and executing a comprehensive implementation plan. While the formal consultation piece is situated in phase 2, Phase 3 also contains a significant amount of consultation with multiple touch points with council, as well as reaching back out to the community for feedback on the draft plan. Throughout the life of the project, numerous touch points are proposed as a means to keep council informed and involved as a key stakeholder. These touch points include the council orientation presentation, which is this presentation. We will then be scheduling council interviews with each councillor for a time in September as part of the consultation component of the project. Once we have compiled all of the environmental scan data and consultation results, the working group will be bringing a consultation summary report to council, which is slated to occur in November. We will then be holding a workshop in February with council to aid in the creation of a draft strategic plan document. And lastly, presenting the final strategic plan to council in May of 2025. A robust consultation program is proposed to help interested groups of people discuss and provide collective feedback into strategic planning discussion. All feedback will be compiled, themed, and analyzed by the Strategic Planning Working Group to support plan building. A summary report on input received will be provided to the steering committee. The proposed program consists of a public consultation that allows for the community to weigh in and share their feedback through a digital public survey for community members hosted on the county's Weigh-In platform, alongside paper copies also being available, and small group meetings, both in person and virtual, with various community groups, including local business owners, community organizations, and service provider organizations and agencies. A consultation with county councillors, county staff, and staff from member municipalities will include one-on-one interviews with council members, a county senior management team roundtable, a digital staff survey, focus groups with county departments, and a member municipality staff workshop. As noted previously, while the formal consultation piece is situated in Phase 2, Phase 3 also contains a significant amount of consultation with multiple touch points with council, as well as reaching back out to the community for feedback on the draft plan. We are hoping that Haliburton County residents, county and member municipality staff, and county councillors will engage in the development process of the county's strategic plan by providing feedback and input along the way.
A detailed and meaningful implementation plan is imperative for the success of the strategic plan. As such, it is proposed that this occurs as two components. First, built into the strategic plan will be performance metrics and monitoring mechanisms to ensure routine checks that the actionable items in the plan are on track. The second component is a separate action plan and implementation roadmap that will cover the operational side of the plan, including integrating the alignment of initiatives in the departmental work plans with the strategic plan, including specifics on tying strategic plan objectives and actionable items to staff reports, as well as the routine reporting of progress. The chart on the slide shows an example of the expansion of the work plans to include a reference to the strategic plan and the requirement of senior management to tie the initiatives contained within the plan to their work plans. This will ensure that the departmental priorities align with the overall priorities of the strategic plan. To wrap up, it's our opinion that the working group has developed a comprehensive work plan for the creation of the strategic plan that will result in a document that effectively guides the county for the coming years. And with that, the strategic plan working group is recommending that council approve the approach, timeline, and supporting principles of the development of the new county strategic plan as outlined in the associate staff report. If council has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add to the information forwarded by Elizabeth and Sue, it's from a plan development standpoint, from a hierarchical standpoint. So the reason today with the project charter before council for approval is that's going to be the foundation of what we do going forward. And through that, the working group will compile the information, do the research, start developing the programs to get the information from the various stakeholders. The working group reports to the steering committee, and the steering committee is myself and senior management team. We ensure that the working group is staying within the guidelines of the plan approved by council. And then as you think, there's 4 times during the program, the steering committee, the working group through the steering committee, we're reporting back to council. So council will be putting their inputs, again, another check to make sure we're staying within the guidelines as established by council today or approved by council today, until we get to the end where the final approval where the final plan has gone through all the mechanisms again and brought back before council for the final approval on the plan itself. So it's the kind of the hierarchical structure of the program itself.
Thank you, sir. First of all, before we go to questions or comments from council, I did want to thank Gary and Elizabeth for the work and Sue for the work that's been done on this report. It is an excellent report, very well detailed, very well thought out, and a good process. Having said that, I have to completely disagree with us going in this direction. I think I made myself clear when we made the decision that staff should be working on this, that I think that this is an additional burden on staff. They've all got full-time jobs, and this is added to their jobs substantially. I think this is a process that needs to some extent to be done by independent bodies. In particular, I have concerns about the consultation portion of the process. I think sometimes it's better to have an independent person doing the consultation as opposed to staffers talking to people in the public who or organizations who may already have preconceived notions about what the county should or shouldn't be doing. Anyway, they're just my concerns. But having said that, I was really impressed with the report. And I do have a couple of questions, but I'll leave them until we've heard comments or questions from members of council. Councillor Shell.
Just a comment to what you just said, Warden. While I agree it is a lot to put on the staff, I think if this had been done by somebody from the outside, I don't think the report would have looked like this. That's just my opinion. I don't think it would have been as detailed, as well thought out, and these people know us. And anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Just on the workload standpoint. So we have, we appreciate the comments. We have identified that within in the schedule. The schedule, that's why it's at end of May. Because we built in there, if you notice in the schedule, there's actually about a month-long break in December, January. That's to accommodate staff's involvement in the budget approval process. So we are just making work plan adjustments to accommodate for the inclusion of the strat plan going forward. So.
Councillor Carter.
I completely concur with Councillor Shell that if somebody from the outside was doing this, it would not be as comprehensive as this is. I think this is precisely the way to go about this. I just have a couple of I don't know, tweaks or comments on this. Is that one on your when you were talking about engaging with stakeholders, et cetera. I think it really should be specific. Then when we talk about residents, we're talking about permanent and seasonal, because the seasonal residents make up a large chunk of what happens here in Haliburton County. My other comment was on the community consultation. I know you've got 4 weeks there. I applaud your optimism, but organizing these various focus groups and all the other things that you're doing, I think that is probably a little bit short, and you should give yourself a little bit of room. And then the one thing that when I read it, it wasn't really clear. It seems that after we get this, you call SWOC analysis, and you've got the community consultation, that would be the phase where we would start to develop the goals and objectives, not the strategies, but the goals and objectives. So we need here to hear from the public and from everybody involved as to where we're going. The idea is, do we have a desire that Haliburton County should grow at, so that it's, 25,000 people at some point? Or is there an idea of trying to grow to 50,000? I know that, for instance, in Southern Ontario, granted Southern Ontario, but even in some of the rural areas, that you know, are looking at building housing. They're going from like 12,000 to 17,000 people in a space of a couple of years. You know, do we want that type of growth, or do we want, do we want something different? There's going to be thoughts from people that, we should try to go out and get some factories to move here, or, what is it that we want to do? And I think that those are important goals and objectives that we need to, as council, decide after we've got all that input. So just, having a sort of a place for that specifically, I think would be because I think that's setting the goals and objectives is the most important part of the strategic plan. I mean, you can figure out how to do it afterwards, but unless you've got your objectives, you don't know what you're going to do.
Go ahead.
If I just, sorry, just to respond to 2 points raised by Councillor Carter, really good points. On the consultation part, on the chart, can we put the chart up on the screen? So the 4 weeks was for the community survey. The actual information gathering piece and dealing with stakeholders is 8 weeks, but your point's well taken. Like we'll take a look at that again, and we may have to modify that as we go forward, but we've allotted about 8 weeks for that outreach piece going forward. With respect to your comment on goal development and objective development, that is, while it's not particularly specifically articulated in the outline you've received, that is what's going to occur between, as we develop the questions going forward into the community groups, question going for the interviews with council members as well. We will develop those based on the information received from the council one-on-one question pieces, the information brought in from staff, community members, and then we get to the draft document summary report coming back to council, which is in everything according to plan will be in November, which would be, the second gold star you can see on the screen. That's when we really mine down into that piece. So that's when that occurs. Exactly what you're talking about. That's when that occurs. And then there's a refresh where we come back. Then we take that information, start to build it into the plan itself. And we come back to council again. There's a facility council workshop. So we take that more detailed information and then really start to put a fine point on it going into the document itself. So it's built in different layers into the program. If I was following your question.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page on that, because I think that's a really important thing. And, my vision of the future, yes, it's important, but it is sort of one person's, view of the future. So we need to get all that consultation to, really need to know what people are looking for, of growing the two hamlets or building housing in another area, whatever, those are all important questions.
We do have 4 municipalities, just to point out.
Sorry, I meant the two towns, because anyway.
Deputy Councillor Dayu.
Thanks very much for this. It may be an unfair question. You may not have gotten there yet in your thinking as a group. But as I listen to what you're presenting, the key challenge that I see, potential challenge that I see ahead is, how do you delineate a general vision for the future of the county from what this building is able to achieve? If you went out with general questions to the community on what do you want to see, they might say, we want the Minden ER to come back. We want a school, further north. We want, any number of other things that are great for our county, but we have no particular control over. And I just wonder if you've had an opportunity to think about, what does that look like? Do we in our community consultation, do we stick to the things that we've got jurisdiction over, which even excludes lower tier, or do we do a general survey and then cherry pick the pieces that we can actually achieve? Because what we've got in this building are very specific roads. We've got, emergency response, but certainly not the whole healthcare system. Like it's a really, really specific set of things that we do. Do you have any thoughts, or are we too early on that?
I can answer that through you, Warden. It was our intent to have a bit of a refresher for the public on what county interests and responsibilities are at the start of the survey. Most surveys, when you build them, you can put a bit of a preamble of information. So just reiterating what the county interests are. And of course, there might be some deviation from that in the responses that we do receive, but just making it very clear to those that are responding to the survey what is within our control and purview within the county and what isn't. And we also are intending to not have so many open-ended questions that go off on random tangents or mostly we're going to be looking at sort of leading the public to answer the information that we're looking for the purpose of the strategic plan.
Just to add to Ms. Purcell's comments. And so in addition to that, as part of the program development is if you're looking at the strat plan from various levels within it, you're going to have the action oriented pieces, which are specific to services provided. But there's also going to be a piece around, which is more of the strategic visionary side of things, which are going to involve things like advocacy, which are going to involve things like support of the local municipalities in what their sphere of influence is. So you're going to get kind of a cross, or there may be a pillar that maybe in your area of good governance, and that's going to talk about stuff like advocacy on behalf of the community. Yes, it's non-jurisdictional, but it will be a goal of county council to ensure that we are properly advocating on behalf of residents for things like healthcare, for things like that are outside of our purview, but also to provide the level of support that the local municipalities need to achieve what their sphere of influence is as well. So you can get a combination of the two. But Ms. Purcell is exactly correct. We will tailor the questions to ensure that they understand what we can and tangibly can and cannot do, but then I made a note that we will talk about things about advocacy works by county council on behalf of the community in the lower tiers as well.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Rail, then Councillor Fury.
Well, first off, I'm absolutely impressed. I just think that what you guys have put together here, it's not just what you wrote, it's how you've presented it. You've presented it with confidence in the sense that you truly and honestly believe that you're going to be able to do, if not this exactly, a version of it that is going to be damn close to what's here. So thank you very much for that. It came across in spades, by the way. The other thing that I, never having been involved with a strategic plan other than the one we just did it in Highlands East, at the municipal level, I've been involved with many strategic plans at the industrial level, commercial. And at the end of the day, a strategic plan, people are of the opinion, whatever period of time it covers, you look at it at the beginning and then you look at it at the end and hope you make some corrections. My personal opinion is that's really not the way a strategic plan should go. While we're going on, we have no idea what's going to happen. There could be another pandemic. There could be who knows what. So I know it's not mentioned in this right now, but the review program for the strategic plan, it typically, we would look at it in the private sector. We would look at it annually with a possibility for amendment in a biannual. So in other words, it's a 4-year, we're talking 5 here, but 4 is what I'm used to. And so that at the end of the day, if something were to come up and you wanted to make some major amendments, as we've been talking about, you can make adjustments at the 2-year period as opposed to going through another 2 years for which maybe the strategic plan based on the circumstances around us is no longer relative in its original confidence level to what is currently in the play. So my question or recommendation or comment would be at some point in time, we look at a review program to make sure that the strategic plan a year, 2 years, 3 years from now still reflects what's going on, not only the way we set it up when we started, but reflective of the time period in which we're in at that point. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councillor Fury.
Well, first of all, I want to commend you for the work you've done. I think it's clear, it's understandable, and it's got a local flavor that, as much as I disagree with Liz, I will in this case, because I don't think a consultant's going to bring things home like you people are. And the only concern I have is when you start saying you're gonna interview each counselor and stuff, is there a way to do a questionnaire or something like, there's a lot of them and that takes a lot of time. So I'm not sure that, it's not important to have the local councils involved, but I'm just not sure that, like I think Councillor Carter mentioned, you got a lot of work, you got a lot of work there, and you got so much time to do it. And I mean, I think you can do it, but I just think that if you overload yourself and try to rush things, it's easier to try and maybe have a look at what we are, who we are talking to. And in terms of how we like to dream, one of the things when there's a lot of people would like to see tremendous growth, but we can't keep up with the infrastructure. And who's going to look at that? Like, how do we keep up with hospitals and sewer and water and those things? So, and there's a lot to capsule here. So I wish you well, and certainly we'll be there to support you as much as we can.
Just as a follow-up to Councillor Fury, when you're talking about interviewing members of council, I assumed that you meant members of county council, not every councillor in the county.
Correct, yes. One-on-one interviews with this council, and we will be reaching out to the local councils for perhaps some like a bit of a stakeholder working team from those lower tier councils of maybe just a subset of councillors from each one to have a discussion with. Same with the senior management at the lower tiers as well.
Councillor McKechnie and then Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I think that you ladies here, you've shown a lot of kind of a challenge here to pull this off. And I think that you show a lot of confidence, like somebody said earlier. I think that's great. Needless to say, I've expressed myself in the past about consultants. Consultants are needed as far as I'm concerned in areas that we are not maybe experts at. And I think we're the experts here. The consultant's going to spend most of his time anyways talking to you and the rest of our council and the rest of our staff. And so, and you were talking about time. We're worried about whether you're going to have this done by November or whatever the deadlines are set here, different dates I've heard. But look at the past, some of the consultant issues we've had in the past, they went on for years. And, you know, and this is a lot of taxpayers' money that we're not going to be spending. And I think we're going to get a more true answer in regard to what the community wants. And that's the important thing. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I just follow up on the whole note about steering the questions or limiting the questions to what's within our control. I think we need to be looking at the overall picture and the overall situation, because as Councillor Ferry said, if people, want us to have tremendous growth, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the hospitals, don't have the schools, don't have the doctors, so those become very important points, in our, when we start getting that strengths and weaknesses thing, this is the point, is that when we get from the public that, hey, this is where we ideally want to go to, and then we look at the strengths and weaknesses that we have, then is when we have to start tempering things or trying to put pressure on people to change, whether it be school boards or hospitals or whatever. So, there has to be a balance there of what, how those questions are, because we have to let people dream also, and maybe a theme park is the way to go. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Only one question that I would ask. I see in your working group that our Director of Economic Development and Tourism is not included. I just kind of wondered about that. Are you giving him a special task? Or?
I can speak to that because I was involved in putting that part together. It's not that they're all, so what we wanted to do, we're doing this twofold. It's a very important exercise for it, but it's also building within the organization, bringing people in. We have a lot of smart people working for us. They're going to help us generate this together. The directors themselves, with the exception of Ms. Purcell and Ms. Tiffin, they're the steering committee. So the voice of economic development is coming through at the next level up in the steering committee, myself, all the directors, as well as members of the working group. So there's a crossover of that piece as well. So it's there, it's just not at the working group level. But we've the senior management team, steering committee has been involved in will be involved in putting the questions together, will be involved in the analysis going forward and the final product come out. So it will be there. We just we structured it at different levels.
Any other questions or comments? If not, could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the presented approach? Councillors Carter and Fury.
The council approved the approach, timeline, supporting principles for the development of the new county strategic plan as outlined in report CAO 08-2024.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks so much. Sue, maybe you don't want to leave the table yet. Next, under community safety and well-being, we have a proclamation about International Overdose Awareness. If you wanted to just speak briefly to that.
Sure, thank you. Through you, Warden Danielson. The Haliburton Kawartha Lakes Northumberland Drug Strategy has requested a proclamation to recognize International Overdose Awareness Day. This Awareness Day is recognized annually on August 31st. International Overdose Awareness Day is the world's largest annual campaign to end drug poisonings, to honor without stigma those impacted and those who have died. The campaign acknowledges the grief of the family and friends left behind. This year's theme is Together We Can, highlighting the power of communities to affect change when everyone works together. The day was established in 2001 by Australians Sally J. Finn and Peter Strecker to commemorate those who have lost their lives to drug poisonings and to support the loved ones whose lives have been affected by substance use. Since 2012, the responsibility of organizing International Overdose Awareness Day has been taken over by the Pennington Institute, an Australian nonprofit health organization, and is now observed all over the world. The proclamation supports the theme of Together We Can, commemorating those who have lost their lives to drug poisonings. The HKLN Drug Strategy would like to invite you to join in marking this important date with Haliburton County residents whose lives have been touched by overdose.
Thank you. I do think it's important that we give this request some attention. Normally, I would be nice to be able to receive a request for proclamation a little bit further in advance, because to me, when we make a proclamation, we should probably also take some follow-up action with the association to it. But I'd look for comments from members of council. I know we definitely have a drug abuse problem in the county, and I think this is appropriate. Any comments? Do we have a resolution prepared? Councillor Rael?
Yeah, I think this is something that really is, as Warden Danielson said, it would have been nice to be able to get a little bit more. But having said that, it is what it is, and the fact that it's just a couple of days away doesn't take the importance away from it in any way, shape, or form. So I think we need to do whatever we can do to promote this and make it as high a profile subject as we physically can.
Any other comments or questions? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to declare August 31st the International Overdose Awareness Day in Haliburton County? Councillor Rael and Dayu.
Be proclaimed that August 31st be proclaimed International Overdose Awareness Day in Haliburton County.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay, the next item is a funding application for a senior active living center program.
Through you, Warden Danielson, I'm happy to include our Director of Economic Development, even though he wasn't included in the strat plan working group. Before you is a report on the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility Seniors Active Living Center program, detailing an opportunity for the county, member municipalities, and partners to coordinate and help provide programs that promote wellness, social interaction, and support services to seniors and older adults. A Seniors Active Living Center, or SALC program, provides social, cultural, learning, and recreational opportunities for seniors to stay fit, healthy, and connected in their communities. The Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility supports approximately 316 senior active living center programs in Ontario and is inviting organizations to submit proposals for SALC programs in a geographic area that does not already have an existing program in place. As the county has a large senior population, but not a senior active living center program within our county borders, we are in a very strong position to apply for this grant. It has been recommended we do so by the ministry's regional development advisor, as well as requested that we take the lead on the application by several senior serving organizations and groups in the county. Should we be successful in the grant application, we would have access to annual SALC funding from the province. We plan to start the program small and evolve it to grow over time in collaboration with member municipalities and groups and organizations that serve our senior population. For example, to start, we could offer senior-focused programming in community centers at each of the 4 member municipalities once or twice a week and virtually once a month. Programs may include arts and culture, book clubs, fitness, health and wellness, lifelong learning, recreation, and leisure activities, and other community-based programs. The April program, for example, could be a Tai Chi class held 1 week in Wilberforce, 1 week in Stanhope, and so on, while the May program might be a photography class and the June program a cooking class. Special events might also take place each month off-site with community collaborators at their locations, as well as virtual events once a month to bring all members together in one place. These virtual events can include presentations by emergency responders, caregiver associations, and local service providers and organizations on topics like scam awareness, elder abuse, gardening in Haliburton County, tech lessons, or grief supports. Or they can bring folks together to make a craft, play trivia, or learn sign language. Programming could evolve and be modified over time with member and community partner feedback. The grant application deadline is September 12th. Today, we are looking for Council's authorization for staff to submit an application to the program and to acquire support to approach the member municipalities to identify their in-kind or financial commitment or combination of in-kind and financial contribution, a requirement for this application. As noted in the report, that would be approximately $2,500 from each member municipality, and the in-kind support can be broad. So staff support, space if available, helping to promote programs and share with residents.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. I'm just here with Sue just because I have some familiarity with this program from a previous municipality, but just a point of clarification. So a requirement of the grant is that we need in-kind contribution for the member municipalities of $2,500. We recognize in the form of space, if we're to use it in your facilities, that'd require, waiving of your use of fee bylaws. So we're not here to request that today to approach your staff. It would really just be support in marketing and promoting the programs. And if an event was held in one of your facilities or a program, we would view in kind as even just simply kind of cleaning up after the program took place. In a perfect world, we'd love to be in front of you sooner with a grant application like this. It's just the province reached out to us about, less than 2 weeks ago. So we're, kind of, I don't want to say scrambling, but we're just really under a tight timeline to get it in. Moving forward, if we were successful, we would obviously receive the money, I don't want to say in perpetuity, but basically for the next 4 to 5 years. And we'd be able to kind of present a more robust kind of application and details around that application next year and any further requests if we were looking at meeting space. An important component to note, if we were to receive the $40,000, it notes in the grant that 80% of that can be used for administration and a variety of other things. So to put some context around that for us, we could, if Sue were kind of acting as the program coordinator for this in some context, we could actually allocate, $20,000 or $25,000 of those funds towards her salary to offset salary costs. So that is something that we thought long and hard about, as well as this could, if we were successful, perhaps help us moving into budget discussions for next year. And then just further to that, any additional program could be used if it was being used in a municipal facility. The funding could be used to pay for the rental of that fee. If you were thinking or your staff are thinking of running some programming, this grant could then actually just pick up the cost of bringing that kind of program facilitator in. I think about, just because I was there on Monday, just the recreation center in Minden, if you were to run kind of some fitness programming for, 65 plus seniors, the cost of bringing someone in to run that program could be picked up through this grant, as well as kind of if you were, renting a room or things like that to pay yourselves back. So the program did stop for about 10 years and then just restarted, I think, in a response to probably coming out of COVID and to help seniors deal with social isolation. So we don't really have a definitive answer on if it's going to keep running for 3 or 4 years. It's our understanding, and explained to us, if we were successful, that basically means we're in the program. Even if they stop taking applications, we're still allocated those funds on an annual basis.
Thank you. It sounds like an absolutely excellent program. The only question that I would have, is there any consideration for, I hate to ask, for transportation to assist seniors to get to some of the programs?
Through your warden, I don't have that off the top of my head. I'd actually have to go back and look at the grant guidelines. If we could build that into the application, we can definitely raise that concern with our provincial advisor. It is something we thought about, and Sue and I had that conversation. Obviously, when you're dealing with social isolation, it's great that you can run a program, but you got to get people there. So we can definitely build that component, if it's an eligible expense, into the grant application. And then further to that, just to clarify as well, if we were successful, we would still have to come back to council and present the contribution and funding agreement to council. You would see kind of the final product and what everything looked like. So thank you.
I do like the flexibility that's built into it at this point in time. So questions, comments, Councillor Carter?
So I understand that, we just heard of this and it all has to be done in the next 2 weeks, but generally, why is this being looked at the county as opposed to the municipal level? Because I do know that we have had conversations with the ministry. We do have some of these programs. They're not necessarily advertised for seniors, but that's who's there. So I'm just, why at the county level, seems to add a step.
Through your warden, we asked that question directly of the province, that, even if the county applied, could the townships apply, anticipating probably this question coming up. Their response to us was, if 4 municipalities apply or 4 townships applied within the county, it would be challenging that for them to approve 1 or 4. So it was suggested and recommended that the county act as a lead, and then it can serve the 4-member municipalities. They went into a bit more detail that if 1 was successful, basically that would limit the other 3 from ever really applying and being successful. So.
Well, and it does come under our community safety and well-being umbrella as well, so that fits. Councillor Rayon and Councillor Dayu.
Yeah. The mental and physical health of seniors, and I'm one of them. And I'm sure there are others on council that are part of that group too. It's not just the fact of that. It's that when you get to our age, for the lack of a better term, and you've been married to somebody for 50 years, and you lose that person, you have got a hole that is almost impossible, or you think is impossible, to repair. And an activity program like this could actually give people a chance to get back into life after a heavy loss. I mean, I know you depend on family, you depend on a lot of people, but you want your independence too. You want to be your own person. You want to do what you want to do. So I cannot find a downside to this whole thing. And with regards to the lower tiers, there's no reason why we can't. I know Dave is here, and we could probably look at being as much of it as we could be as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to the county level. It could be all 4 municipalities and the county working together. I just think it's an excellent cause, and we should get involved.
Councillor Dayu and Councillor Fury.
Thanks. Great initiative. Glad we're gonna go for it. a question for clarity on my side, because I'm not sure I fully understood. Are you suggesting that we apply for general funding through which we can hit a whole bunch of different things as they're needed, like a little bit of tech support, a little bit of mental health, a little bit of this? Or are you suggesting that we apply funding that can reach the whole county for one specific need that will be drawn from one of the things that you've listed? Because when I look at the application, you know, it says, program priorities, proposals will be assessed based on how well they demonstrate a need in the community, and then the potential needs are listed. But I didn't get the sense from the application that it was, you were supposed to respond to all of those needs in the one program. So could you just clarify the intention?
Thank you, and through you, Warden. Basically, kind of in our conversations with the province, what we really landed on was to get the application in this year. We're going to try and keep it really simple and probably offer consistent programming once a month or once a week, and then rotate through the townships, whatever that programming would be. I think, we keep using Tai Chi. I don't know why, but we could say yoga. And then moving forward, if we're successful, based on kind of feedback we're receiving from the programming, we would probably expand that in further years to address more boxes within that. But we'll do our best basically to try and address, over the course of 12 months, if we just look at, we're basically going to be offering 12 separate programs, try and tick as many boxes of those as we can. Also understanding that, recognizing Sue's kind of workload, you just saw on the strat plan, and just keeping it really simple. We almost really viewing it as the county is almost acting like a general contractor, so to speak, you're bringing all these people together, trying to find some consistent programming over the course of a month. We support it, coordinate the marketing, and then actually part of the program as well as we can actually create a calendar that we could promote throughout the year that would show all this as well.
Can
You
I,
want to add to that, Sue? Go ahead.
please, thank you, through you, Warden. The programs they do need to be specific to seniors. So while we might have programs that are popular for seniors to show up to, these programs need to be designed with seniors 65 and older, as well as 55 and older in mind. So it's not general programming, it is senior focused programming. I have been able to connect with SALC operators throughout the province, including in some of our neighboring areas, to hear about how their programs have worked, how they've started, how they've built, how they've pulled other groups in. And it really is a very collaborative process. And it certainly evolves over time as members share what they're missing in their lives or what they would like to have in their community. And certainly as everyone gets involved, it expands and grows. Just to your point, Councillor Ryle, about men, and specifically men who are potentially grieving or who have been widowed recently, when I discussed this program with the community paramedic chief or commander, he immediately identified that as a potential event or a potential group that we could bring together in the county, noting that, sometimes when women grieve differently, potentially, sometimes more socially, whereas, sometimes with men, you see that they might not be as social, they might not be able to sort of manage all of the household in the same way. And so just having a group for men to come together, be together, learn together, and then bring other organizations in to help support is really beneficial. And I think that really goes to show how this program could work, is just that once something is in place, people know that there's a need and people have ideas. And so just being able to collaborate with others is going to be really beneficial for the county if we're successful.
Thank you. Councillor Fury.
Certainly, you'd have to be against motherhood not to support the program. But my question is, did I hear you say that who's going to administer this? Or do we have to hire someone to administer this and put all this stuff from each of the 4 townships in? Because that $10,000 isn't going to do that.
Through you, Warden, great question. We laughed in the conversation with the province. They suggested we could hire someone. I wish our pockets were that deep and just hire someone on a contract. That's not what we're proposing. We're actually proposing that Sue would act as the administrator for the program. And then we double and triple checked with the province yesterday that with her acting as the administrator or coordinator, we can actually use some of the funding towards her salary. So potentially if we were successful at budget time, you may see a revenue source associated with a portion of her salary was.
I like your thinking, but there's only one Sue, you know, and I think we're putting a lot of pressure on her.
Through your Warden, a conversation her and I both had in late August. We at this point it might be something that evolved that we could maybe spread out some of the workload to other departments to help achieve this. But at no point are we, and unless it's a complete success and they change the funding model, but at no point would we be proposing to hire a coordinator. Is as simple as the province of Ontario thought that would be for us. So yeah.
Councillor Dayoub.
Do you think there would be potential even to add into the funding application to say that, you know, we're going ahead with a strategic plan in the county and aging in place, aging at home, aging in rural areas is a huge question. How can government facilitate people staying in their homes for as long as they wish to? And through gathering people together in this program, we will be actively learning more about what those needs are. And in future iterations of such a program, we might be tailoring our application towards that result. I wonder if that would create great practical advantage for us, but also be quite attractive in funding application.
So the program is largely about that, is intending to, it's non-residential programming, so getting people out of their homes so that they can live at home for a longer period of time. So we can absolutely build that in. And I think that's really important to be able to hear feedback from the members, to hear what their lives are like. It's one thing for us to say Tai Chi for seniors, but the seniors might say, no, we want kickboxing, right? So I think just being able to hear from them as they participate is important. And just also to Councillor Fury, there is only one Sue, which my parents often say is a good thing. But I just wanted to note that there is some time in between finding out if we're successful for this grant in January and before the program starts in April to really dig deep into programming. And because it's collaborative, there are other groups who are coming in place. I won't be at all of these programs, although I would love to be, and I suppose I will be one day. But it's really about coordinating so that organizers are there in place to run the programming. So the coordinating piece is a small part of it compared to running the programs, which is really contracted out or through in other communities, a lot of volunteers, service organizations who are looking to do outreach anyway.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I think, as you already know, just looking at the numbers here, it's like about 60% of our population is over 55. So, I mean, if we're not a group that is deserving of these funds, I don't think anybody is.
Councillor Realm.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like we were talking about this being a group effort. So it's being organized and set up by the county, but again, we're all coming up on budget times and we're looking to look at where we can best serve our residents with the limited amounts of money that we have. So a single amount of money coming from one municipality is a lot of money. But if you look at what is being proposed and coming up with stuff that would be of value, where the return on investment is more than the cost, then it might be something that each municipality could look at as part of their budget for 2025. I'm not saying how much, I'm really saying it's a consideration for budget, so that now the municipalities, the lower tier municipalities, can have an in-kind or dollars or whatever they have available to contribute to this program. I just think it's an awesome program and we should do our best to keep it going.
Thank you. Any other comments? Right, could I have a mover and a seconder then to authorize staff to submit the application? Councilor McKechnie and Carter.
The council authorized staff to submit an application to Senior Active Living Center Program Extension Grant, Expansion Grant, and if the grant is approved, to enter into required funding agreement with the province.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Next up is the financial report, and then I think we'll have a break after that.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning, Warden and Council. In front of you is our new quarterly financial report. Staff have been working with the CAO to develop a new reporting structure for Council to provide you with more accurate and detailed information. So staff welcome any feedback that Council may have for us today on the new report. As of June 30th, the county is just below its intended 50% spent at 47.27% of operating expenses incurred. I have identified within my report a few areas of revenue that are trending higher than predicted, which includes our investment revenue, sale of assets, and the land division user charges. The report also outlines a few expense variances to bring to Council's attention. Within the second quarter, the rail trail has seen the impact of multiple significant weather events, which has caused 2 major culvert washouts, multiple crew callouts for cleanup, and 1 ratepayer fence repair. Those events have left that cost center over budget as of the second quarter. On the flip side of that, the county's community paramedicine program is currently trending below budget targets. Staff are currently reviewing the program to identify how best to enhance this program for the community that would fully utilize the funding from the province. Looking forward to Q3 and 4, there is the already identified Hops Drive project. Staff have received estimates since presenting this to you in July. Originally, it was estimated this would cost approximately $300,000. The estimates we received is approximately $240,000, so a bit lower than intended. The rail trail, unfortunately, has had yet another major washout in Q3, which we will report on fully in the Q3 financial report. Overall, at this time, directors are anticipating to address the identified issues within the 2024 budget allocations and or the increased revenues that we've received. Now, might be a good time to note too, with the issues with the rail trail, that looking in the future, the accommodation tax is something that we could utilize for rail trail emergency expenses as it is classified as a tourism asset. And I'd be happy to answer any questions Council may have.
Any questions on the financial report? Councilor Carter.
I guess my only question is, are you happy with it? Are you happy where we are and comfortable with where we are at this point?
There are, like I mentioned, there are some things that we are keeping a close eye on, but yes, I think we are still in a good place as of Q2 and moving into Q3. So
It's great.
Any other questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive and approve the financial report? Councilor Fury and Councilor Shell.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, hamster fell off the wheel there, sorry. The report, COR 23-2024 Q2 financial report, including year-to-date actuals as of June 30th, 2024, be approved.
All in favor? That's carried. And we'll break until 10:15. Welcome back. The next item on the agenda is tourism and our third quarter tourism report. Welcome, Angelica.
Good morning, Warden Danielson. Welcome, members of council. I have before you my bi-monthly tourism report for you to review. Some of the highlights from this report I can point out are that our My Haliburton Highlands website is seeing some significant growth over the last year, and this is pretty much a direct result of us investing in our tourism assistant, Eric Casper, doing some education and training and learning some more about search engine optimization. And we've been doing a lot of investing into the website, and it's already showing results. So we're really happy about that. Eric's really thrilled with that. Another thing I'll point out is we are almost at the end of our public engagement sessions for the municipal accommodation tax. We've hosted 2, and our last one will be happening this afternoon over Zoom. They've been going quite well, and we've had some really good feedback and suggestions for how we're going to do the next steps for the creation of the Municipal Services Corporation, which will administer the municipal accommodation tax once it starts being collected. And then finally, we've also been doing some celebrations throughout the summer for the 150th anniversary of Haliburton County. We've been popping up at a lot of community events. We've been partnering with organizations and stakeholders in the community. We've heard some great feedback. We've had some great conversations, and we have a few more things rolling out before the end of the year. And I'm happy to take any questions or any feedback if you have any.
Questions from council or comments? One question that I had with respect to the county map project, you talk about 4 branded signs that are going to be constructed and installed in various locations across the county. I'm wondering, like, okay, so you're talking about branded signs. How is that established, or how does that cross over with the wayfaring project?
So they're branded with the My Haliburton Highlands branding. So they're going to have our logos, like the tourism logo, QR codes that take people right to the My Haliburton Highlands website for more information. There's 2 of these maps already in the community. There's one in Dysart and there's one in Kinmount. So we're going to just replicate those maps and put them in 4 more, one in each township. We're just nailing down the locations for each. It doesn't really, it's not part of the wayfinding strategy. These are large maps of the county, and they point out trails and points of interest and such. And then there's more information about the county through the website and social media channels at the bottom of these signs.
Well, glad to hear that we're going to have more of those, and that Inmount is actually outside of.
I understand that. Yeah, I do understand that. It's just sort of at the start of the rail trail where it comes into Haliburton County, but I do know it's right. It is right outside our border. Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the bi-monthly tourism report for information? Councilors Fury and Shell.
The Haliburton County Council received staff report EDT 13/2024, bi-monthly tourism activity report.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Angelica.
Thank you.
Excellent report, by the way.
Thank you.
Next up is emergency medical services. And the first report is on response times. Good morning, Chief.
Morning, Warden Danielson, members of council. There, we'll make a quick change of microphones here. My first report in front of you is very similar to last year's. I have not changed the response time plan. As you'll note that in 2023, we met all of our response time targets. And so far in 2024, we're meeting all of our response time targets. So we have to develop a plan and have it available by October 1st as per legislation. And I have to submit it prior to October 31st. So I'm suggesting that we utilize this plan the same as last year and go with those targets for 2025.
Any questions on the response times? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve the plan? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Diane.
The staff report EMS 03/2024 Haliburton County Paramedic Service Response Time Plan be approved.
All in favor? That's carried. And next is your work plan update. Oh, sorry, dispatch system.
Yes, Warden Danielson, members of council, I thought I would just update you on what's known as MPDS, Medical Priority Dispatch System. Some of you are probably familiar with it from a previous report. I was trying to look how long ago it was, but some were not on council then. This has been a long awaited dispatch system. It's COVID put it on hold. It's been on hold for years. It is now going to be implemented. Now I actually have a date of March 26th for Lindsay, Central Ambulance Communication Center. And the advantage of this this dispatch system is that it better prioritizes the patients. So the present system often over prioritizes the patients. So we just have a code 4, which is every shorter breath that's out there, a code 3, which might be a fractured ankle, but everything gets thrown into these 2 major emergency responses. This really mines down into exactly how urgent the patient needs an ambulance. So if through the questioning is declared to be a purple or a red, then again, it's a possibly life-threatening, could be a cardiac arrest, it could be a chest pain, it'd be lights and sirens and immediate response. Keep in mind that this system's been in place for a long time. The dispatching criteria has a lot of science behind it and a lot of data. So if it's deemed as, and there could be several categories for any specific chief complaint, taking abdominal pain, for example. If it's determined it's a leaking aortic aneurysm, it's going to be probably a red response, but maybe it's an abdominal pain that leans more to something minor in nature. So rather than just be covered all under this one gamut of a code 4, it could be deemed as a orange, which could wait up to an hour, depending on vehicle availability and depleting our area of vehicles necessary for the purple and red responses. If it's deemed yellow, it could wait up to 2 hours, and a green could actually, they would wait 4 hours. So the other piece to this is that us as the operator have input into the decisions of what ambulance will be sent. So for example, I'm going to use, I'll use abdominal pain. So if it's deemed to be an orange abdominal pain, and so that means the patient could technically wait an hour if we didn't have all the ambulances available. So we have the choice of in the matrix of over 2,000 depictors of what we respond as, which we're going through one by one as we speak. That patient, we may say, we want the best response, not the closest response. And what I mean by that is if it's at 20 minutes before shift change, and the closest ambulance is that crew that's going off at 8 o'clock, and this patient can wait an hour, then they will choose the best ambulance so that crew doesn't incur overtime. So it won't be the closest ambulance. It may be the Torrey Hill ambulance because it came on at 7 o'clock at night. And so the other piece to it is that we can also decide when fire needs to respond and when they don't. So it will hopefully better utilize our fire departments only when they're really required, and not necessarily when they're not required, because they fall under just a code 4 now. Now that if it's an abdominal pain that's be deemed as an orange or yellow, even though it is going to be 20 minutes for the ambulance, or greater than 20 minutes for the ambulance to respond, fire would probably not be sent to it. So there should be some advantages there. So that's where we are with it. We're just going through all this matrix of deciding what the appropriate response is, and March 26th is the launch date. It has been launched across the province so far. Mississauga, Toronto's had it for years, Niagara's had it for years, but it's gone to Mississauga, Ottawa, Renfrew, and I'm not sure if there's someone before us. I think Georgian might be before us, but.
Questions or comments? Councillor Rao?
Yeah, I have one in terms of I'm just concerned. You were talking about the differential between something that would be major and something that would be minor, and how that's made before you've actually seen the patient. An example would be, one, I have a stomach cramp. It's really painful and I'm not sure what it is and I want to go. Option number 1. Option number 2, I have a burst appendix. Now, the question becomes, as far as I'm concerned, I just got a stomach pain. I got an abdominal pain. How are we going to be able to, or you are going to be able to differentiate between those two? And secondly, the two examples that I gave, are they critical? Because I can't see a burst appendix being in the same category as a simple stomach cramp.
And it probably wouldn't be, depending on the questioning. The decision is made by the dispatch. And again, as I said, this has been in place since the late 70s. So there's a lot of science behind the questions that are asked to further mine down to the severity of that particular abdominal pain. So there would be specific questions that would lead to, well, it could be burst appendix, or maybe it just leads to cramps. So it's all in the questioning matrix that the dispatcher has to make that determination.
Any other questions or comments? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the response plan report? Councillor Carter and Councillor McKechnie. Thank you.
That Haliburton County Council receives report EMS 04-2024 medical priority dispatch systems for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Sorry, that was the dispatch system, not the response plan. So finally, your work plan update.
Thank you. Yes, so I have in front of you our update where we are so far in our work plan. Maybe to highlight the highlights, one of the big ticket items on here is that we have received our 90-day notice for our ambulance service review. I'm sure some of you are aware in past the monumental task that is to accomplish and be successful. It details out over 250 items that we have to provide the evidence from the legislation that we are meeting those requirements. So we started earlier than the 90-day notice to prepare for it, but we're getting there. We're in full preparation mode, and we'll be ready for November 5th when the review team comes in. And they'll bring about 7 people in. They'll interview the hospital staff. They'll interview other stakeholders. A lot of it is to do with, just the internal workings of the ambulance. And they'll be looking at all our vehicles to make sure even the lights flash appropriately as per the guidelines. So that's the ambulance service review. And in sort of combination, the two things, we've been meeting regularly with HHS with our frontline staff just regarding transfers, and that sort of ties into the CT scan update. It's been in place for about a month now, so I don't have any good numbers for you. It'll be interesting to see if August, the call volumes for August compared to last year, but I can tell you just from listening to the environment and watching the environment out there, we're certainly noticed a decrease in the number of transfers going out of the county in any one day. We are still doing transfers, but they're different now. So if the CT scan identifies an issue, then the appropriate facility they make arrangements with the appropriate facility to transport those patients there. So we're doing some more patient, transfers to Oshawa, some down to Toronto, but it's not that steady stream of patients going to Lindsay and Peterborough for CT scans. Sort of another larger item that's on here as far, and there's questions about the other stuff, but I thought maybe I'd just explain the new radio system. All the vehicles have been installed with new radios to go live with the public service radio network, which is sometime next year as well. The radios are in the same frequencies they are now, but in the future, they will be encrypted so that a lot of these scanners will not be able to pick up ambulance communications on the radios. So that's one of the advantages of it. It's right now they're just putting new towers in all of our bases to accommodate the new radio system. Quick update on emergency management. We did do our training and exercise in May. We have 2 meetings scheduled for the Emergency Management Program Committee to complete our compliancy for the year. Public access defibrillation. we have a very good program in the county. We have 42 units in 39 locations. We just recently moved one from the Lachlan Community Center as it's no longer operational to the Dorset Tower. On the review, the inspections of the units is ongoing throughout the year. So we have what's called our public access defibrillation coordinator who comes in regularly and goes and ensures that all the units are working correctly. The community paramedic program, again, very successful. From my view anyway, last year we were able to get our medical director on board. So we have specific medical directives now that the paramedics can follow to provide the care in the home and keep these people at home rather than them having to go to other facilities, and hopefully mitigating those transfers to the emergency department when we can just provide the reassurance and the care in the home. We have grown, so we have rented our facility. It's all in place and in good shape. And we presently are sitting with approximately 200 community members or clients in the community that we're seeing on a regular basis. We've kind of hit capacity there. So that's where we're looking at. We have another new vehicle has arrived for the community paramedic program. So to add additional staff through the week to accommodate probably more individuals. But again, staffing is an issue. It's a matter of everyone's having staffing issues. So it's a matter of getting sufficient staff to be able to service all the individuals. But other than that, everything is, that's sort of the update. If there's any questions?
Any questions for Chief Waite? Councillor Rael?
Yeah, I apologize, Chief. That whole diagnostic thing is still a crawl on my side in terms of having a dispatcher doing a lot of the screening. Again, I'm just visualizing the burst appendix versus the thing. Is there any way possibly that once this whole program gets rolled out, that we could not get a report of your opinion of where we could see liability as risks that could come out of this program? Because the last thing I'd want to be able to see is, because we've done a cost cutting and improved our overall resource management. And at the end of the day, we lose one or two people because of an inadequate screening. So, and I recognize at this point in time, you don't have that. So I'm not asking for it, but is it something that we could follow up on later to see where it is? Because it just strikes me as, unless the dispatcher is really cognizant of medical situations, and most aren't, how are they going to differentiate by a simple questionnaire? So again, I'm just voicing my opinion, and if it's possible to get follow-up, that would be cool at a later date.
If I may, Warden, all of that is in the dispatch training. This is a provincial initiative. This all falls on the dispatch side of it. We still are we're responding as per the guidelines. We have to follow the direction of dispatch. So I don't see any really liability on our side. It is a true and tested dispatch system. It's used worldwide and has been very successful in its application out there. So, and again, it is a provincial initiative. It's the dispatch that makes those decisions, not us as the provider. We just respond as we're told to respond.
Well, I would have to say that although I'm very grateful that I have not had to call dispatch very often in my life, the two times that I've had experience with that, the questions have been extremely detailed, lots of questions asked, and I wouldn't have any concerns. I think our CIO wants to.
Yeah, you just to build on the chief's comments and the warden's comments. So this isn't a new program, so it's not something that we're piloting on. So there is data to support the actions taken. And I think it's important to note, this isn't a cost cutting measure. This is efficiency or resource measure, and it's also standard of care. So you're increasing the standard of care by winding down in the questions. So the questions are designed not to deprioritize, but to prioritize, in making sure that they're getting the response required for the situation. So it's more of an increased service level and then an efficiency level versus cost cutting.
Any other questions? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the work plan update? Councillors Fury and Carter.
That report EMS 05-2024 Emergency Services Work Plan Update be received as information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next, under external boards and agencies. The first is a piece of correspondence that went out from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus. I will say that that there was a meeting held by these three organizations. It was very interesting. It's the first time that all three, we'd met previously with the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, but to have the sort of a trifecta that we're all on the same page about the things that we wanted to support. So there was a unanimous agreement that we wanted to send out this correspondence that's been attached. Just briefly, because I don't think we've got it anywhere else on the agenda. There wasn't a lot of attendance on behalf of Haliburton County at AMO, which was a little bit disappointing. And I'd have to say, although I wasn't able to attend some of the learning sessions, I was a little bit disappointed in the process overall. First of all, our own delegation requests were denied. The multi-ministerial meetings that we used to have with the Wardens Caucus are no longer being held. We continue to get that's a very good question with absolutely no response or answer to your concern. I'm just a little bit disappointed in the levels of success that we've had. The Wardens Caucus did have delegations on infrastructure, housing, long-term care, and there were several delegations that we attended as a county with the city of Kawartha Lakes on matters, one of which the Solicitor General's office did not appear, which was, the Attorney General's office, and that was somewhat disappointing when they accept the delegation and then nobody shows up to meet with you. I think that the delegation that we had with the city of Kawartha Lakes seeking a little bit of assistance in funding for mental health and addiction issues as it relates to the work that we do wasn't as successful as I had hoped it to be, but I think that there's some opportunity for follow-up there. Anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, just to that. So on 2 points, Ron Taylor, the CAO for Kawartha Lakes, did reach back out to the Attorney General's office, and they did apologize. They moved the room and just neglected to tell us they moved the room. But
So they think we didn't.
They thought we didn't show up. But that's been clarified. So there is work being done to set up a subsequent meeting with the Attorney General's office to discuss the points. That's being worked on, as well as the outreach back to Minister Tabulo with respect to actually having him and his staff come to Haliburton CKL to discuss the matters that we raised during our session with them as well. So that was, the minister did volunteer or say that he would be willing to come up. So we're in the process of trying to work that out right now. So.
Do we have a resolution with respect to this try? Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the correspondence that's being sent out on our behalf? Councillors Carter and Rael, thank you.
That the correspondence the minutes presented on the August 20th, 2024 agenda be received.
All in favor? Okay, so that resolution is for all of the
Yeah.
three. So is there any comment that you wanted to make, Councillor Rael, on the Pine Ridge Health Unit correspondence?
Yeah, the overall correspondence pretty well sums up where we stand with everything. There was no actual regular meeting of the HKPR in August, but we did have a meeting on August the 22nd, and it was in relation to the merger program. The August 6th letter to the ministry is here, and it pretty well sized everything up. The bad news is on August the 22nd, we had received absolutely no comment from the ministry on where everything stood. So at this point in time, we have no idea whether the funding will be approved or not. We have been alluded that it will. There is another meeting scheduled for September the 5th. to basically see if we can drill down and get more information. Having said that, I wish I had something positive to report, but that is what it is. So hopefully in the next meeting, we'll have something.
Thank you. Any comment that you would like to make on point in time, Councillor Dayoud?
Nothing in particular. The organization continues to paddle along. The summer activities have now been wrapped up and they're looking forward to the continuation of their regular fall and winter programming. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any notice of motion? No business arising from previous council meeting. So could I now have a mover and a seconder to go into closed session? Councillors Carter and Shell.
The Haliburton County Council entered a closed session for the following reasons: be to deal with the personnel matters about identified individual, including municipal and local board employees.
All in favor? That's carried. Welcome back to the open session. Next is the procedural bylaw. Could I have a mover and a seconder to pass the procedural bylaw? Councillors Carter and Shell.
Just a point of clarification, Warden, we're actually doing both 4257, 4558 under the same motion.
Okay. So that is including the appointment of Councillor Dayoud to the HHS board. Just confirming the discussion that we had at our last meeting. Got a mover and a seconder.
I'm sorry, did we? I missed it, sorry.
Mover and a seconder. Councillors Carter and Shell. I think that's who it was.
The following bylaws listed under the heading of consideration of bylaws being enacted and passed: bylaw 4257, being a bylaw to govern the calling in place of, the county procedural bylaw, and bylaw 4258 being a bylaw to appoint a member of council to the Haliburton Highlands Health Services Board of Directors.
All in favor? That's carried. And then a mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw. Councillors Carter and Dayoud.
Be resolved that bylaw 4259 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the August 28th, 2024 meeting, Haliburton County Council be considered read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Finally, a motion to adjourn. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Rael.
That the August 28th, 24 meeting of Haliburton County Council be adjourned at 11:49 a.m.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, everyone.